Okay, part two. As I was stating in number one, basically, in so many words, a courtly individual is a high priced prostitute and whore, whatever particular word you wish to use. And like I said before, it can also be synonymous with gold digger. That's going to come up later on too. Okay, another reference is that of the word harlot. It simply means today prostitute. Okay, origin of harlot. Middle English means rogue, buffoon, female prostitute, from Anglo-French harlot, beggar, vagabond. Now, one thing I should warn you with, or warn you to right now, is the fact when studying a lot of esoteric and mythological information, the great mother of all creation, that which I guess you could say created a god, through some sources in English or more from the medieval perspective, Anglo-Saxon, they refer to the great mother of great mother nature as the whore or the harlot. Now, one of the reasons that they said this, number one, back then English wasn't as fine tuned in ways back then as it is now. So a lot of times when you go back reading a lot of information from those times, it sounds more Shakespearean like. And when you're reading Shakespeare, you will find that there's a lot of lines and scenes and all of that different stuff that really refer to processes in nature or are metaphorically talking about a specific spiritual principle. Harlot, which the Great Mother was referred to, was because of the fact that if anyone wished to partake of the knowledge of nature, nature gave freely, which is synonymous of a whore or a harlot, which gives it up freely. Okay, so in this particular post, I'm not necessarily referring to harlot in that sense, which I really don't like anyway. When I'm referring to a harlot in this, I'm really talking about a whore, a prostitute, escort, whatever. Okay, make sure we got that down pat. Now, another word that I will wish to reference to is cuckout. And it's interesting because one of the slang words for a prostitute or a woman with a vagina, so to speak, was cot. Some would say cod because they may smell kind of fishy depending on which one you ran up on. But cuckout or cot, okay, simply a prostitute. Um, and well, that's pretty much it for that one. Okay, let's look up sex worker. Now, a sex worker is simply a person whose work involves sexually explicit behavior, especially a prostitute. Okay, so if you're involved in acts that have to do with you offering up sexual favors as an exchange for money or anything in return, you're a sex worker. That's exactly what it is. And that may not necessarily be a so-called negative or so-called positive thing, depending on, where it's applied. Streetwalker, is a prostitute that's on the street. I shouldn't necessarily have to read that reference to that, right? Now, let's look up strumpet. I heard a I heard an old brother call a woman a strumpet, and she thought it was a compliment. And on the low, this is what he was basically referring to her as. Strumpet, Strumpet. It simply means prostitute. Okay, pretty much. That's what it refers to. Um, Another word that's synonymous with prostitute is hustler. And a lot of individuals would not think that hustler would be synonymous with that. Okay. However, hustler, and there's a lot of references to the word hustler because it's okay. I'll read them. Okay. To convey forcibly or hurriedly, to urge forward precipitately. That means a hustler can be someone who's a fast talker that's attempting to get you to go along with an idea, or in so many words, impregnating the feminine aspect of your mind with an idea so your masculine aspect of the mind will agree and direct that attention towards the specific thing that they're attempting to coerce you into doing. To obtain by energetic activity. To sell something or to obtain something from by energetic and especially underhanded activity. Okay? Hustling and sucker, so to speak. To sell or promote energetically and aggressively. To lure less skillful players in competing against oneself at a gambling game. That's a very interesting reference to that word, because we all refer to the prostitution game, or some of us refer to prostitution, whoredom of any type, as a game. Okay? And pretty much that's what it is. This person has to get you to go against oneself in some way and patronize them for sexual favors. All right? Or to get someone to patronize them for sexual favors. Okay? To make strenuous efforts to obtain money, especially, or business. To obtain money by fraud and deception. To engage in prostitution. That's one of the references. All right? Now, let's see if there's any other. Let's look up tart. T-A-R-T. Tart. An agreeably sharp or acid to the taste, marked by biting, acrimonious, or cutting quality. Examples of tart. The wine is rather tart. Okay. Because the reason why this is here is because it's like a lot of times something that was considered sour or bitter was not something that you held on to long term. So they looked at prostitutes and whores in the same way. You just get them, pay them, bang them out, keep going. That was it. All right. Now, one of the main reasons why I read all those different words, those references to those words, because you're going to hear them, especially if you decide to do your own research. You're going to run into these words. And I know some of you, as well as I was, when I done my research, you reading about prostitution and whoredom and harlots, and all of a sudden you run upon tarts. Like, the hell tart got to do with prostitution? Because most people, when we think of tart, we're thinking about a treat, like Pop-Tarts or something like that. Okay? Now, prostitution, harlotry, whoredom, has a very long history. Okay? And the reason how it came into being just like this. A long time ago, a lot of different communities or societies were more alpha male based, meaning that it was very synonymous to what animals do in the animal kingdom, especially certain monkeys and other mammals. And basically what happens is all the females decide upon the strongest male or the strongest males to impregnate them. I'll continue more in part 3.